Welcome back for today's installment of Cardano Insights, where we track the all-important developments at the very pulse of Cardano and its ecosystem. So let's get straight into it. Now, it's safe to say this weekend we've been spoilt with Cardano content and breaking developments. From Scotfest to the Cardano Summit and everything in between, there's certainly a lot to unpack here. What we'll try to do throughout this week's episode is cover all the major developments coming out of these events, whilst keeping up with all the ecosystem updates as they happen. So first, let's roll back the clock to Thursday afternoon, where City AM broke the story that IOG had invested $4.5 million into the Edinburgh University Blockchain Research Lab. The investment is intended to fund new projects aimed at accelerating the development of blockchain technology and forms part of IOG's extensive academic programs spanning the globe, designed to foster continued research to set industry standards and best practices for emerging technologies. The launch of this lab extends on IOG's existing relationship with the university, having previously established a blockchain technology lab within the School of Informatics there, which has already significantly contributed to the advances made with Ouroboros, Cardano's family of proof-of-stake protocols, to Aphelimus, a proof-of-useful-work protocol which aims to resolve the energy efficiency problems for proof-of-work blockchains like Bitcoin, which we've covered in some detail on this channel. The establishment of this new hub places emphasis on the interdisciplinary research, drawing upon the expertise of researchers and students in specific fields to enable blockchain development to grow more rapidly based on the new learnings that will emerge. It's clear, rather than being a lab to solely benefit the development and progression of the technology that powers the Cardano blockchain, this lab is a gift to the entire industry, where the peer-reviewed research and technological breakthroughs can be leveraged by all blockchain developers to progress this space forwards on the journey to mass adoption. Another example of this being the formulation of the Edinburgh Decentralization Index, or EDI, where the wheels are now very much in motion to form what is destined to become an industry-recognised standard to measure how decentralised blockchains are, that will no doubt be utilised by regulators to build regulation, and probably most importantly, help blockchain users make informed decisions before participating or interacting with any blockchain. On day one of Scotfest, IOG's chief scientist Professor Agalos, lecturer Dr. Daniel Woods, and researcher Dr. Dimitris Karakostas of the University of Edinburgh presented the EDI in a 30-minute presentation that I would highly recommend everyone taking the time to go and watch in full. The presentation covered four key areas: what is decentralization and why it matters, what are the challenges to measure this, the case study already completed on Bitcoin in terms of decentralization relating to block production, and a complete overview of the EDI project as a whole. Now they've completed research into the measurement of block production on Bitcoin, the project now aims to broaden this analysis to the key ingredients that make up a blockchain, to touch on all aspects of the system and form specific measurements on how decentralized or centralized they are. This will hone in on the geography, API, tokenomics, consensus, network, software, hardware, and governance layers of blockchains. Each of these 8 layers identified will have subcategories that, once investigated thoroughly, will produce the research methodology for evaluating blockchain decentralization. This will then be used to develop the framework to measure decentralization. In essence, the lab will write the code that will analyze the data and output the metrics. It's at this stage that they will methodically go through each blockchain and apply the same framework to ascertain the results. Once the research into the blockchain layers and framework is complete, they will release the EDI code to the world, which will be completely open source so that it can be scrutinized and improved by external contributions. This is not only a key principle of peer-reviewed research, but ensures a completely unbiased approach, and through global contributions to the process, you will not only refine the decentralization index, but it will also promote the creation of alternative competing indexes that will all have one common goal: to create an industry standard when it comes to measuring decentralization. The final stage of the EDI roadmap is to create a visual interface that will enable the regular blockchain user to understand the levels of decentralization of any blockchain project, and importantly, as a result, identify if they are of interest to that user to fulfill the intended purpose. In essence, the Edinburgh Decentralization Index will lay bare the naked truth of our industry in delivering an objective way of using on-chain metrics to measure decentralization. As I've always maintained, this is going to dramatically change the crypto landscape for the better, and if you ever want to truly realize mass adoption, is a necessary endeavour that needs to be undertaken. It's no surprise to me that it's IOG who are at the very heart of making this happen. There's no time horizon currently on the EDI delivery, but I'll be sure to continue tracking all developments right here on Cardano Insights. Now, while Scotfest was in full swing, big news also emerged out of Emurgo that in February 2023, they will introduce the first regulated USD-backed stablecoin for the Cardano ecosystem. This stablecoin will be the first offering in its platform and Zen suite of products. Partnering with a regulated financial service company based in the United States to custody cash deposits, Emurgo will ensure the stablecoin is fully compliant and adheres to all regulatory guidelines. Emurgo's new stablecoin, or USDA, will be the first product being brought to market within Anzen's, Emurgo's new product suite, which aims to bridge the gap between traditional and decentralized finance. Anzen's will provide a portal to regulated financial services, products offered within the Cardano ecosystem, wherein anyone can tokenize their dollars and move them as Cardano native assets. USDA is planned to launch on the Anzen's platform in Q1 2023, where users will be able to tokenize the USD into USDA via credit or debit cards, wire transfer, or conversion of ADA. Alongside the tokenization of USD, Emurgo will soon enable the safe and convenient conversion of other stablecoins, including USDC and USDT to USDA, with further plans to enable conversions and swaps of cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin and Ethereum, amongst others. The goal is for Anzen's suite of products to include regulated borrowing and lending services, crypto to USD currency conversion for immediate card payments, and stake pools that pay out rewards in USDA. After the planned stablecoin launch in February, Emurgo expect to be able to offer the tokenization of alternative assets outside of USDA within a 3-month time horizon, which would include dollars, the euro, yen, as well as gold and other commodities. After the introduction of these assets, the Anzen's platform will introduce centralized lending and borrowing facilities where ADA holders through a Cardano wallet will be able to also make use of their assets in the regulated world and take advantage of these services whilst leveraging their crypto and spend the value on a prepaid debit or credit card in the real world. The idea here is to make the process smoother in moving between the centralized and decentralized finance worlds. Now back to Scotfest and to the most highly anticipated news that came out of the event, the big announcement Charles had teased the community about throughout the build-up. We speculated on many of the possible outcomes, but I don't think anyone actually predicted what eventually came to fruition. Nearing the end of his keynote, Charles announced the introduction of a new blockchain IOG have been developing over the last 4 years called Midnight, which will effectively become a sidechain of Cardano once launched. So what is Midnight exactly? Well, in essence, it's a data protection based blockchain that safeguards sensitive commercial and personal data, protecting 3 fundamental freedoms, that being freedom of association, freedom of commerce, and freedom of expression for developers, companies, and individuals alike. Midnight will enable developers to quickly build and deploy data protection first dApps that will give users autonomy and complete control over their data, introducing a new paradigm for online interaction, allowing users to control the data they choose to reveal and whilst keeping the rest off the internet. Being a sidechain of Cardano, Midnight will leverage Cardano's unique security and quality guarantees whilst using zero-knowledge cryptography and confidential computation, extending to Cardano a trustless ecosystem that safeguards sensitive, personal, and commercial data. So how will the blockchain achieve this? Well, by using zero-knowledge proofs, Midnight will enable the sharing of assertions about your data without having to actually share the specifics of your private data. This enables the user to participate in a service or activity whilst retaining their privacy, but is granted access to the service or platform through the verifiable assertions about their data. Midnight maintains the privacy of a user's data by never removing it from the user's system. Only assertions of your data will ever go on-chain, not the actual data itself. Now, when we think about mass adoption, the announcement of Midnight is a significant step towards this becoming reality through Cardano. First off, initially dApps or smart contracts on Midnight will be created using TypeScript and extend to many other programming languages thereafter. TypeScript, a DSL we've covered many times on Cardano Insights, is extremely popular and well known amongst the developer communities, which by design is intended to attract a larger community of builders from the offset. A blockchain or sidechain of Cardano in this respect that can deliver fast dApp deployment from the builder's perspective and privacy-based smart contracts from the user's perspective will open up a whole new world for regulated institutions and enterprises to come and operate on-chain. From a company's perspective, through Midnight, they'll be able to share mission-critical information such as financial data directly with each other while proving they've met regulatory requirements without revealing any other confidential information. From an end user's perspective, Midnight will provide the platform to create a dApp that can tell the user within its terms of service if they're obliged to share certain aspects of their data to regulatory authorities, giving you, the end user, the control or opportunity to opt in and proceed to use the application or opt out altogether. For example, from my understanding, if a user opts into the terms of service of a dApp, their information still remains private, as once again it never lives on chain. However, in the event, for example, a regulatory authority requires it, the developers would create viewing keys to show the user's transactions and therefore satisfy regulatory demands. In effect, Midnight, rather than a replacement for the decentralized and transparent ecosystem we will enjoy in Cardano, is an alternative sidechain that will offer the gateway for companies, institutions, and enterprises of all sizes that currently operate in heavily regulated industries in the world of Web 2 to connect their services with Web 3. Midnight and its data protection-based blockchain will effectively enable users on a blockchain to actually integrate and interact with the wide range of services that exist in the real world, and in turn, bring that world closer to Web 3 and blockchain technology. Now, there are many use cases we can ponder over that the Midnight sidechain will present, and I'm sure in time we're going to delve deeper into this as more is revealed about the development progress. But fundamentally, opening the doorway for governments, institutions, and heavily regulated industries to have an effective solution to build and operate on-chain whilst maintaining standards and practices against their strict regulatory requirements seems highly likely that it will cause the biggest shift in the adoption of this technology that we've seen to date. Midnight delivers that vital missing link between the worlds of Web 2 and Web 3. So that's it for today's installment of Cardano Insights as we keep track of the developments and continue to spread those positive Cardano vibes. Tomorrow we'll have more insights from Scotfest, the summit, and some very interesting ecosystem developments that have emerged in the last 48 hours or so. If you found value in the content and want to help scale this channel Basho style, then please be sure to comment, share, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, which is the best way you can help support the channel. We'll be back soon with your daily roundups. Until then, thanks for watching, have a great day, and as always, keep it Cardano.